So years ago, this is a true story about a TV show that came on. It was a show about a lion tamer, one in particular, tigers, Bengal tigers. It was a live show with a live audience. And he would take these Bengal tigers and they would go into this cage with him and it would be locked. And so this was a big thing, big deal, big premiere kind of thing. And the worst thing that could happen, happened. You say what? Well, while he was doing his performance with these tigers, the lights went off. It was pitch dark. He's locked in a cage with several Bengal tigers. He could not see them, but they could see him. What stood between him and them was just a little chair. And so, nothing happened. When these 20 seconds were done, and he was interviewed after this exercise, the reporter asked him, "How did you survive such a thing? How did you maintain your cool and keep it all together?" He said, "Man, I must confess, I was scared. I was trembling. I had anxiety. I was so stressed out." He said, "But what happened was, in that moment of my stress and crisis, I remembered the manual. In the training manual, it reminded me to always keep that chair out in front of you and crack that whip." I thought about that. Brothers and sisters, no matter what you're going through, you and I have crisis. Sometimes it's with a loved one passing or with raising our children or whatever it might be, loss of job. Sometimes we have crisis. And someone has said it this way: either you're in one crisis, coming out of a crisis, or getting ready to go into another crisis. Life is filled with crisis. So how do we handle it? And I want to encourage you this morning, we handle it based on our God. John Blanchard said this: "No crisis is greater than Christ." We must always keep that in mind, brothers and sisters. Let me read our text this morning, Isaiah 41:10. "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." It's one of my favorite texts in the Bible. Maybe it's yours. But this morning I want to just encourage us as we walk through this text. A little bit of the background. Remember what I'm trying to do. I've entitled this message, "God's Comfort in a Crisis." In Isaiah 41 verse 10, the prophet Isaiah gives two commands of consolation, which provides reasons for believers to trust in the promises of God. I remember I grew up as a young kid learning the great hymn. The older folks here today, you know we grew up on that great hymn, right? What was it called? Standing on the promises of God. Standing on his promises. His promises are found in his word. You can stand on them, bank your life on it. No matter what comes your way, it will anchor you and hold you together when everything else around you is falling apart. Well, what's the context of the text here? Well, in Isaiah 41, Israel's in trouble. Well, they're in Babylonian captivity at this moment, and they got news that there's going to be a new power, new superpower. The Persians, by King Cyrus, is being raised up by God. He's going to take over Babylon, and Israel is afraid that when he comes, he takes over Babylon, he's going to take over them as well, and they will feel the judgment of God on their lives, and they're afraid. They're fearful. Yet they will find out God has something else in mind. In these first 9 verses in Isaiah 41, we see the credentials of God. He lays out the credentials of God, of who God is. So if we're going to find comfort in God, we need to know what kind of God we got. What kind of God is this? Isaiah lays this out and he lets us know that God is a sovereign God. He controls everything. He's a providential God. He works in the human affairs of us in our lives. He knows about us and cares about us. He is the creator. He knows and controls all the elements of creation. And he has sovereign grace election. He chooses what he wants to happen and chooses the people. And so these verses are God's credentials to lead them to understanding of why he's going to encourage them to trust God in their crisis. Story that I know that's told that I think captured this moment of this text of verses 1 through 9 is there was a ship on the sea, and it saw a light in the distance, and it signaled to this light that they needed to move 10 degrees north. Well, this light signaled back to them and said, no, you need to move 10 degrees south. And back and forth it went, no, you need to move 10 degrees north. No, you need to move 10 degrees south. It went back and forth. And then finally, the man on the ship, he was a captain. He said, I'm the captain of a battleship. I said for you all to move 10 degrees north. They signaled back and said, you don't understand, sir. You need to move 10 degrees south because we are at a lighthouse and we do not move. We have absolute authority and power. We outrank you. We're in control of all of this. God's credentials is like that. God controls everything. Everything. William Beveridge said this: God can secure us from fear either by removing the thing feared or by subduing the fear of the thing. I love that. We don't have to fear what happens in this life because we have God. And God is our security. He's our anchor no matter what it is. Fill in the blank. God can handle it. Steve made reference to this earlier in one of the verses he learned as a young kid. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways do what? Acknowledge. And he will do what? Right, he will direct your path. Trusting in the promises of God. And that's what Isaiah is trying to do now, is get the people of Israel to understand they need to trust in God. But there's 2 major things I want to unfold this morning. The first, in verse 10, with the phrase, fear not. Fear not. This is the point I want you to understand. Stop fearing life's affairs. Stop. That's what the word is saying. Fear not is saying stop fearing life's affairs. In other words, let go of your fearful emotions because God is ever accessible. We have a great God that's ready and able and willing anytime we call upon him to help us. We don't have to fear. Fear not. This verb is interesting in the Hebrew because it has this indication of if you fearing, stop it. If you haven't begun to fear, do not start. Because of your God. Your God is something else. Yahweh is something else. Elohim is something else. Your God, fear not. Because of God, he will guard you. He will assist you. I don't know if you ever felt like this, but I have. In Psalm 55, verses 5 through 8, David keeps it real, as we say. In Psalm 55, verses 8 through 10, he said, fear and trembling come upon me, and horror overwhelms me. I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Yes, I would wander far away. I would lodge in the wilderness. I would hurry to find shelter from the raging wind and tempest. You ever felt like that? Mostly like, if I could just get away. You know this commercial that comes on, I think they still have it come on, that of you push the easy button. You know, when they push the easy button, then they go to a tropical land, they off on paradise, they're escaping their pressures and problems. Isaiah says, fear not, be at ease, because of your God. Why? So Isaiah, here's my question to you. Why should I not fear? Next phrase. Here's the supporting to that point. For I am with you. The presence of God, the theologically, omnipresence of God, that God is with you. This ain't just any old God. This is the God. I'm with you. It's important to know who's with you. You remember that phrase in Psalm, the 23rd Psalm? Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Because my God is beside me. So God's presence is with you. That's how you and I can stop fearing life's affairs. And He is, because He is beside us.